Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Commodity Classic. My name is Brady Spangenberg. I lead the marketing group for crop protection here at BSF. We want to welcome you to our booth. We also want to welcome our panelists. We've got a great hour for you, so grab a seat, grab some coffee, and we're here today to talk about content creation within modern farming. And we've got three special guests with us. I'll let them introduce themselves, but they're all content creators and also farmers. So I'm very happy to have you all, and I'll start with James. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is James Pieper. I'm a little quiet here. My name is James Pieper. I'm a skip generation farmer in south central Minnesota. I grew up in the Frisco area, moved down and took over some family ground, so a little bit of a unique story, and that's kind of why I started sharing it online. We grow field corn, soybeans, and sweet corn for local canning plant.
I'm Mary Pat Sass, and I'm loud. Wow. I am a farm wife from northern Illinois. My husband and I farm with his two brothers and his parents, so there's 4 families on the operation. We grow mostly corn and soybeans, and I also share our lives online.
My name's Jena Ochsner. I did not grow up on a farm. I actually had really big city dreams, but I married a 5th-generation farmer and live nowhere near a city. We grow commercial corn and soybeans, and we have a cow-calf herd of Black Angus cattle, and I share our farm life online as well.
Well, thank you all. At BSF, we say farming is the biggest job on earth. It's not just the farmer's job, but it's also the community, the insurance agent, the retailer, the PTA member, and part of the challenge is being able to share that story. We talk about in agriculture a lot, we need to do a better job sharing our story, and the question is how. These 3 folks have figured out a way to share their story through social media. So how did you get into being a content creator, and what have you learned about sharing the story of agriculture? Maybe we'll go last to first, Jena.
So I actually first started sharing online because we started a direct-to-consumer beef business, and I knew if I just put a website out there with me, I wasn't going to get a bunch of customers. So I started sharing how we raise our cattle. It's like a very humane process, birth to butcher, our family's doing the whole process, to create a community that I could convert to customers for our beef products. I quickly learned that there was a whole other community of people sharing their stories online, and I had women that I went to college with messaging me being like, I had no idea that's what you guys did. And I realized that a majority of the population has no idea what we do. They don't know how we do it. They don't know why we do it. And we make up less than 2% of the population, and we're growing the food, fuel, and fiber for the other 98%. And it was very unsettling to me to think that the other 98% might be getting their story about what happens on our farm from somebody else. So that kind of became my why, and why I really leaned into sharing our whole farm story, not just the cows, but the crop side as well, and everything that goes along with being a family farm.
Mary Pat, how about you?
My husband ran his lunch over with a tractor. And I thought that was really funny, and I decided to start sharing after that specific thing happened. I had just quit my job a couple months prior, and I was looking for an outlet, I guess, to really connect with other people, and I didn't really know who I was talking to when I started, but I found through the years that I'm talking to the other women in agriculture and helping them, whether they're a daughter-in-law who is married into a family farm, helping them find what really lights their fire and sharing that through my own experience marrying into a family farm and finding what I enjoy doing, and also just really finding my place and learning so much along the way.
Very cool.
And for myself, so being I have a little bit of a unique entry into the industry, I wanted to document that for my own sake, more of a virtual scrapbook than anything. Like my great-grandparents have this old black and white book from the 30s when they first kind of took over our farm and they bought the place. And this was my version of that, except it was videography and pictures and not in black and white. And that's where it started for me. And after doing that for a couple of years, I was, 1, enjoying it, and 2, had very similarly to their experiences figured out there is a very large amount of people out there who don't understand what happens on a farm. And so I figured, well, hey, if you can create something that's educational but also entertaining to keep attention on it, there's maybe a potential to move the needle and having people understand why we're making the decisions we do, what trade-offs are we balancing between with a lot of the, everything from agronomics to the economics to machinery, and it's also turned into an outlet. I mean, there's folks at this farm show that I've talked with off and on for the last 3 years. I'm finally meeting in person. You know, there's not a lot of young people out in the countryside, and to get to connect with folks who are maybe living a parallel universe in a different part of the U.S. has been really rewarding as well.
So that is the fun part about social media. You start with connecting with people that you knew, right? You know, high school friends, old friends, colleagues, and eventually it turns into connecting with people you don't know. And all of you have amassed a certain level of a following. I'm sure many of them you knew, but now you're introducing farming to those who don't. So what have you learned with connecting with those that you didn't know along the way? Maybe we'll go, James, you first.
Well, I guess my audience is probably, I mean, if you trust the polling you put out, a third farmers, a third, I'd say people like my dad, maybe a generation removed, and a third have no idea.
Sure.
And so I guess I look at content, which group are you kind of speaking to? And oftentimes when you're trying to speak to the folks you don't know, who don't know what you're doing, I mean, it seems silly, but super, super simple is better. You know, there's a lot of people who don't understand why do you put grain in a grain bin, where folks in this audience will take that for granted. And so that's a place, stuff like that's where I start. And people are interested in it.
Very cool. Mary Pat?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, the different people that you connect with online from different countries and all over the place. I think for me, what helps, like, with creating content, though, is thinking about the one person that I'm talking to. Because if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. So although a lot of people from all over are going to see what you're sharing, I'm focusing on the one person, the woman, 25 to 40 maybe, like wanting to be interested in agriculture or learning more, or maybe even raising a family on a farm, and that's who I hone in on. But it's crazy. I think also a little scary what people are willing to say in the comments section, and they're just people that you've never met before.
Sure.
Yep.
So I actually resisted following other farmers and farm wives when I first started sharing because I told myself I'm building a community that will buy beef from us. And the other farmers know what I'm doing. I know what they're doing. And they probably have a neighbor that sells beef, so they don't need me. I need to reach the people outside of agriculture. Well, assuming gets you nowhere fast. And once I actually started connecting with people, like Mary Pat was one of my first farm wife Instagram friends. And I started connecting with the women that were in the same phase of life as I am, or the young family farms that were also starting to share. And my account started to grow a lot more rapidly. And I think there was like a rising tide lifts all ships. There was a lot of people that were starting to feel seen. Like, I'm not the only one out there. I'm not the only small family farm in the middle of nowhere trying to get my voice heard. So I think when I finally connected with the people I didn't know, but were also farmers, I really saw some positive growth.
That's really interesting. And you mentioned finding new business ventures or building businesses differently. You know, the business of farming is growing food and fuel for the world. But what about social media or having an online presence, building content, opens up new commercial possibilities for farmers? Maybe Mary Pat, we'll start with you.
Sure. I mean, being able to work with brands like BASF is definitely a great diversification for all of our farms, and that has been just huge over the past years of getting to know how to share and tell your story on social media. For me, though, I saw a need from my audience's perspective, so I started a business because of social media, and it's called Grounded Journals. They're prompted journals to help farmers and ranchers keep their memories, and that is something that wouldn't have started had I was sharing my story online. I'm putting it all out there. It's basically like a journal. Stories of my day-to-day life and what I'm doing with my 2 little kids on the farm. And I don't know if any of you know about the TikTok ban. Anyone? Okay. TikTok was banned for like less than 24 hours in January, and everyone was freaking out. And it's instances like that made me realize social media is not permanent. We need a place where we can keep these legacies written down so that our future generations can see. And that's why I started that business, and that was because of social media.
James, how about you?
Yeah, I don't sell anything direct to the consumer. All of our crops end up getting processed and on a grocery store shelf eventually, but that's on someone else to sell. But from a business standpoint, you know, there's, like Mary Pat had said, there's value in working with brands. Unique opportunities where, you know, when you're aligned and using products with a brand and it fits what's going on in your operation, I mean, that's been a needle mover for our operation. Maybe I should get some beef, though.
I can hook you up. Being a fifth generation farm means our family survived the farm crisis that was the 1980s, and we've heard the stories of how hard that was, and it was like truly handshake money. My in-laws risking absolutely everything they had, and my father-in-law's dad, my husband's grandpa, making a Hail Mary pass to save the farm by starting a crop insurance business while my in-laws worked to save the farm. And so we've heard all those stories and how it was literally like Jesus and handshake money that got them through. And a Hail Mary pass, when you're trying to save a farm, a lot of times it's not caught on the other end and the farm does go down. And we're not naive to the fact that another farm crisis could happen. So my husband and I are working really hard to diversify now as a move to like build long-term resilience. So when a new hardship or a new farm crisis could potentially happen, we're set up and diversified. And social media has definitely been a piece of that. I actually give a whole keynote on how I'm a conventional farm wife that very unconventionally kind of accidentally diversified our farm and personal income. And social media is a very huge piece of that. I was already talking about the brands that we love on our farm and that work really well for us. And then once I realized I'd built this audience that could also be a benefit to these brands and make money by sharing it with them and kind of linking arms with those companies, it was a huge moment for us.
So let's talk combine picks. You know, it's easy to say I'm a content creator, hey, look at me, but I'm sure it's not that easy. So what goes into planning? Say, I want to be a content creator, I want to share more. How do you even start? How do you plan what you're going to put on?
Well, my husband is a very good sport. He's always been on board with sharing our story, and he's the labor of the farm, the heavy lifting. I'm excited to hear James' answer to this because my husband's always said, "I'm happy for you to come along and video what I'm doing. I'll pause and I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about." But if he was out there by himself, it would be very difficult to like. I need to record this. I want to share this, edit it. But we're like a family farm. We're working hard. It's just us and my in-laws. We are doing all of the labor. So it's very much on our family like a team effort. My husband is the farmer. I help in whatever role he needs me for. I've learned how to drive the equipment and do all the things. I joke that he taught me the grunt work. Like if he doesn't want to power wash the combine when he does, he'll let me do that. But it's very much a team effort. And then he's a very prominent character in what I share on social media, but I'm definitely the one doing all the editing and doing all the back work to get the partnerships and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps just to start because it's super easy to overthink what you're creating for content. I like to think about what value is my audience getting from this piece of content every time I share it. Is it entertaining? That's important. Is it educational? Are they finding a connection to it? I think about my person as I'm creating content so that they come to my page and find value from it. And I think I share the day to day, but I think about what would I find value in this season right now? Like we're about to start planting. I want to be ready for that. So how can I share with the people who are tuning into my channels how I'm getting ready to make it a better planting season for our family this year?
So a planter needs a content plan, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't really have much of a plan, I'm going to be honest, but I think sometimes you can plan yourself to death too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Where I'm probably the other end of the spectrum. I'm the banker in me likes planning. As far as getting started, I would echo, just get your story out there. And the more you give people that they can connect with and find value with, the more, in theory, that content should do well. Not that that's always true.
No.
But overarchingly, consistency with doing that, I think really, it shows for itself. I'm trying to figure out my mic here. Now, as far as like planning day to day, to kind of answer your question, I provide all the labor on our farm. I wrote my wife into running equipment in the spring if like my high school hired help is gone, but everything else is me and day to day. And so just understanding like, all right, if this, you kind of I hit that level of social media where it's like, all right, if I'm going to take this seriously and I'm actually going to tell my story and like you're going to want to be a face that a brand is going to want to work with and you're going to take it to that level, I have to set the time aside to set my phone up at 5 different angles while I'm fixing a flat tire or whatever. And like, bless her heart, but my wife knows if I go out to the shop and she's like, hey, are you videoing today or are you just fixing? And I'm like, I'm videoing. She's like, you're not going to get anything done. Because you kill a lot of time.
Yeah.
Like with planting, I legitimately build in a full extra day to me horsing around for videos, which probably sounds dumb, but like in my world, that's worthwhile.
And I think we've all started to treat social media like a business.
Yep.
And if you just treat it like a hobby, it'll pay you like a hobby. But since like James is very evidently treating it like a business, then it will pay him like a business. So I think when you shift your mindset around, I want to share my story, but now I want to share my story and diversify my income with it, you definitely take a different approach.
And not that you have to, but like, I mean, I build out week by week calendars and plan stuff out, and it's like, you don't want to plan too much, because what if something breaks and it's good content, you need to have room for it, and I don't know. It's farming, so if you're going to build content with the seasons, there's limitations to the planning piece of it, but
your plan's got to be flexible.
yes.
So let's talk farming community, because not too long ago, farmers didn't want to share their secret sauce, their special recipe, what exactly they were doing on their farm. Seems like you three are taking that in a different direction. So how do you balance that sort of sharing special sauce sort of approach to farming?
I think there's definitely been a shift in our generation, and I think a lot of us are realizing, well, like, no two farms are the same. Like, Mary Pat and I grow the same crops, but our approaches that our farms take are very different soil types. We're almost 100% irrigated. They have some irrigation. So I think if you get over the mindset that, like, we're all in this together, like, we cannot farm enough to feed everybody or all the fuel you need. I think when farmers shift that, they realize that there's so much benefit from sharing. And that goes a lot further beyond just like what you do in the field, your chemical profile, your plan. It goes a lot more beyond that. Even just like planning for succession, I think there's a shift in our generation. It's like the generation before us didn't want to talk about it because the 80s were ugly. But we don't need to know numbers and the dirty laundry that your family might have, but we want to know, like, what worked for you, what didn't work for you, what are some ideas to bring the next generation in, that everybody feels seen. So there's a shift happening. It's a slow one, but it's definitely a shift that we're a part of that change.
I echo what Jena said. Second. I wouldn't change anything. I agree 100%.
I would say, well, gosh, you kind of summed it all up well.
We're good. We can just opt out of that one.
I don't know. You got us covered there.
Perfect.
So Jena, you mentioned a little bit about different soil types, different sort of land structures, land management, care for the land, stewardship of the land. Those are really important topics for farmers to be able to tell their story. So how critical is it to tell those aspects of the story about here's how we're caring for the water, here's how we're caring for the soil, and what do you do to show that? So maybe that one's for you, James.
Yeah, so, I mean, kind of back to the earlier part of this conversation, if we don't tell our story, someone else tells it for you.
Yep.
And either they mean well and have no idea what they're talking about, or they don't mean well and have an agenda, typically. Once in a while you run across a good nugget out there from someone who's not boots on the ground, but we have a unique perspective to walk out in the field with a phone and show what's happening. I talk a lot about drainage on our farm. We farm heavy black Minnesota dirt, and we need drainage to raise decent crops. But it's not just about the yield. Like, there's a lot of erosion we reduce by doing that too. You keep a lot of soil in place, which keeps fertility in place, and there's a lot of misconceptions about that topic. So that's something I lean into because that's part of our story where, I'm sure there's stuff on the irrigation side of things and more dryland farming that I'm not the best voice to, but like there's folks out there who could be, so just picking those pieces that fit with your story, I think.
Absolutely.
I do think every time somebody drives by a field and sees an implement, especially in season, when the crop is already up, they like immediately, if they're not connected to farming, they get maybe like red flags. Like, what are they putting out there, you know? So I think it is our opportunity to share, like, this is our second pass of nitrogen, and we're putting it on because we want to be sure that our plants are able to utilize as much of it as they possibly can without it leaching or whatever. That story is so important because the common person does not know that.
And going back to what Mary Pat said with seeing the implement in the field, I think somebody sees a sprayer and they know nothing about farming and they're like, oh, they're just dousing the fields in chemicals. They're ruining our soils. But I posted something once and I said, okay, we're applying this chemical and it's at a rate of 12 ounces per acre. So that's like taking a pop can full of that chemical, mixing it with like 98% water is what's getting put, and then that's getting spread over the size of a football field. And I think a lot of people were like, oh, we had no idea. We had just assumed if there's a liquid coming out of a sprayer, it's 100% chemical. And I think with the online community, there's the people that are your loyalists, and like I don't care what we do, they're going to believe in you. And then there's people on the extreme end that are like, we're anti whatever you do. But then there's that movable middle where a lot of people do have an open mind. And so I think that's where, like, me sharing that kind of analogy with the pop can over over the size of a football field, that's where that movable middle is like, oh, okay, I get what they're doing now. So there is definitely, sometimes it can be hard because there are people that come at what we're doing, but the movable middle is bigger than the extremists that don't like what we're doing.
So let's talk innovation. I think you were going there already with the pop can about innovative ways to create content. It's one of our favorite topics here at BSF, but one of the things we see that in challenging market economies, people sort of, they go back into their own bubble, they don't try as many new things. How important is it for you to trial things, to demo things, to test things and share that? And that's probably a leading question, but I see you nodding, so.
We try things on the farm every single year. And sometimes there's so many trials, it's hard to keep track of all of them because there's a lot of products coming out all the time and different struggles that we have with different diseases, and things are always changing. So we're always having to analyze what we're doing and see what's giving us an ROI. And sharing that journey, I think, helps too with public perception, knowing that we're not just throwing this out there. Like, this stuff is actually an investment for our farm, and we need to make sure that we're getting our return on it, and we test and verify. We're students of our crop. I think that might be Jenna's line.
Yeah.
But
you can use it.
yeah. So I think that's an important part of the journey too.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that we use on our farm, we trial a lot. We do a big test plot with hybrids and different varieties of seed and chemicals as well. Every acre that something is used on, it's earned every single acre. So we were part of the Valtima and Revitech trial in like circa 2019 growing season. And it was on a small trial, but we had third-party research from it, and it did well. So then the next year we did a little bit more. And then the next year we did a little bit more. And I think it was in 2023, maybe my husband even played with doing a late season fungicide pass and like protecting that top end yield as disease hits in and keeping that corn green all the way up until harvest. So, but he didn't do that on our full farm because fungicide is expensive. And if we're going to invest in it, we need to make sure it is actually giving us that top end yield that we're hoping to protect. So trialing is huge for us too. We can't just blindly invest in something that isn't going to work.
And I think from a social media side of things too, like, it's really easy to get that kind of the impressions like, oh, you're trying X product. Like, of course, you're going to tell us it works, right? To have, like, legit experiences and legit data, like, I mean, anybody whose farm knows that sometimes things on paper don't work out in reality every single time. And to be able to showcase that, right? Like, a win rate in agriculture over 70% is pretty darn good. And it's still a worthwhile decision to be making long-term, but it doesn't win every year. Like, our corn crop didn't make any money in 24. Doesn't mean we shouldn't grow it in 25.
Right.
You know, we're probably not going to get 45 inches of rain.
Hope
you know?
not.
So it's just the long-term perspective, and to share that with both the farmers of interest and then the consumers, like you were saying too, I think there's value there.
And it's not, with trialing, it's not a one and done. Like last year we trialed something on a soybean field, and then it got, like, I think we had over 50% hail and rain or hail and wind loss on that field. So it's like we can see how it did given the damage it withstood, but that's not good enough data for us. Like, we want to try it again, and hopefully that field doesn't get ruined by hail and wind, and we can get better data. So I think we're constantly students of our crop.
That's a great phrase.
Yeah, you can use it.
It's a $10 fee every time though.
Probably worth it.
What was the most surprising piece of content that you put out there that you're like, oh my gosh, this thing just blew up?
So I have one that has, I have two if we have time, but I shared this homemade ranch mix that I make. Like, I share like healthy stuff and what I do in the kitchen. My husband's allergic to MSG, so I said, here, you never have to buy a ranch packet again because most ranch packets have MSG. Here's how I make my own. And it went absolutely insane. It like doubled my following overnight. But then, like, there is haters, if you will, that come with that. Like, people can get mad about ranch mix. Like, people can get mad about anything if it sees millions of people. But more recently, I shared, it was really cold and we're calving, and I showed, like, oh, it's 15 degrees. This calf was born outside. Here's how we make sure this calf does well. And so we have this homemade calf cart that my husband welded. It hooks up to the four-wheeler. We put the calf on it. The cow follows the calf into the barn. In a perfect world, then it keeps us safe because the calf is between us and the cow. It's keeping the calf safe and getting it into the barn quickly, and then the cow's just following behind. People were mad about that. Like, and I got called a factory farmer because our cows are calving in my backyard. I don't know. So there's very surprising things on social media, and the things that you never, like, I never thought that me showing the calf cart or ranch mix would meet a lot of people, and both of them reached millions. So it's just, you never know what might pop off when you share. And then you could put a lot of time into something that's like, this is cool, and it flops.
1 week ago today, I shared a video I didn't know what I was going to share. It's a Monday. Mondays are hard. I'm scrolling through my phone, and I remember my daughter painting her uncle's nails in the shop. Threw it up there, and it has over 100 million views between my 3 platforms right now. And I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
Why that?
Why that?
I think I ask myself that question a lot. But I think the content that I put the most value in is the stuff that really comes from the heart, the stuff where I'm really trying to connect to that other farm woman and encourage her to do what she wants to do. And for me, it was breaking through the barriers of being an in-law on the farm and getting more involved when I was scared. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. It's kind of always the goofiest ones that take off and go big, and then the people who are outraged at things, you're like, I didn't know it was capable. I don't know people could be mad at
Yeah.
that. Like, I learned something new. Like, I don't know. I made a video 2 springs ago. We broke out a little Minneapolis Moline tractor and a 3-bottom plow in our, like, forest of a yard. You know, mind you, there's no erosion risk here. I mean, there's trees on every side, and plowed up like a garden, double the size of this platform. Had like 20 million views, and the people who thought we were like burning the planet down because we had a 3-bottom plow for a garden was nuts.
Yeah.
You know, like,
It's wild.
and we don't plow our farms, but the 18 million views on that, like, that's a fun number. Like, it sounds really cool, but from like the goal of platforms, like, that's not moving the needle with folks understanding ag. That's not moving the needle with other farmers learning new things. Like, that's just kind of the silliness of the internet sometimes.
No.
You know.
I think for me, like, just one more note on the nail polish video is it brought people to an ag account that maybe never had been.
Yeah.
And it showed them a wholesome family moment. And that happens like literally every day. And I think for me, seeing the traction on it made me realize how much I take for granted, like, the beauty that we get every single day. Like, people were shocked to see that, like, or so happy. It like made their day. I'm like, what? Okay, like, I should really be enjoying this more than I even am.
A lot more value in that in my plowing video.
Well,
So I think you answered a little bit about, you know, having an objective and having an end user in mind. How do you manage when folks are throwing haterade your way? You know, that there's some folks that either don't appreciate or don't understand, or you know, what would you recommend to other content creators out there for that side of the internet?
put on a prom dress.
Yeah, Mary Pat's got some good content around.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
you're good.
I think it's funny because the hate can come from anywhere. It can come from people that are not involved in ag, but it can come a lot from people who are. And it's like, come on, guys. It's silly a little bit. And I think what I was telling Jena this morning is people that you know you're never, ever going to meet ever in person, it's really easy to be really horrible to them online. I mean, I don't do that. I don't feed into that negativity, but that's what I think about when someone's bringing that to me. It's like, I can kill them with kindness or I can make a joke about it, but that's about all that I can do.
Yeah, I think there's three approaches. You can like block and move on. I think it's sometimes from the comment you can usually tell like maybe they're open to education, maybe they're not. If it looks like maybe they just don't know, sometimes I will give an opportunity to educate. Like this is why we do it. And I try to stay very positive and not like I'm getting defensive. So I can educate, or you can like kind of rebuttal in a funny way, like Mary Pat did with her prom dress. Like when we got accused of the factory farm, I kind of videoed like, oh yeah, here's our factory, my small family farm on the same land we've lived on for 135 years. And then I gave my husband's response, who was very tired because he'd been waking up every 2 hours for the past 10 nights because it was -20 for 2 weeks. And he was like, if it's a factory, where's all my help? Because I'm doing this by myself.
funny.
So I think there's like, you can make light of it, make more content and around it, block and move on. And I think we really have to realize like hurt people, and they're not like attacking my personal character. They just don't know.
Yeah, and when it comes to like the factory farm comment type things, like I always try to respond in a way that's educational if it looks like a place for that. And like, I mean, I guess it's twofold because one, you know, helps your metrics, pushes things in the algorithm. Like content does better when you interact in the comments. So there's like, from the business side, there's an incentive too, and obviously with kindness. But then from the other standpoint of, you know, if you have I use as different analogy once, or example. I had a tile video, and there were a bunch of people commenting a bunch of like misinformation on tile, and had 1 million views, 200-ish comments on it, and I responded to probably 50 of them. But see, then you wonder, like, I think of my wife. She'll watch stuff, and she doesn't like or comment on things. She's kind of the quiet observer. How many quiet observers go to the comment section and say that you kindly and
Yeah.
informatively responded, and they'll read it and they'll go, huh, you know, rather
Yeah.
than just seeing the negative comment. Like it's that point where you can reach that silent viewer is kind of how I've viewed that. I don't have any metrics that show it works. It makes me feel good.
It's great advice.
Yeah.
Great.
So part of a good online strategy is your in real life strategy. So, what's been surprising about as your social media accounts have grown? Has anything changed in your community or the way you interact with people or the things they might say to you?
You mean like in real life community?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think so. I try to stay like really grounded with who I am online. So when I meet somebody in real life or somebody in my community, like that's the same person. It's not like that's Instagram Jena and this is real life Jena, like very much a real human. And I've worked really hard on that. So I think the people in my community, I don't know if they watch my stuff. I just assume they don't. And if they bring it up, I know they watched it and we can talk about it. But I think just really staying grounded in who you are, then there's not that disconnect, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's affected like. I'm a transplant anyway. I grew up in Wisconsin and moved to Illinois, so I don't know a lot of people until I go home to the local gas station and every single person is there. But I don't think it's really made a big difference personally. Yeah.
Where I'm a transplant as well, but being totally new farming operation transplant as well, being, my family had been renting ground out and we'd piece stuff together. So I drew attention to myself just by coming down to where we farm. And then to have the social media, I feel like people in the community probably are like, who's this James guy I haven't met? This kid in his 20s who's farming by himself? Oh, he has social media. Well, I can figure out who he is. And so I've got a lot of folks locally who watch my stuff. They tell me they like it. But like it's fun, you walk into the case dealer and they're like, I know what part you're in here for because they watch me pull it off. Like, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And so you play into it, but yeah, just make sure you're the same person on the camera as you are in real life, and just treat your neighbors well.
Yeah.
My grandma has Facebook and my parents are on social media too. So I'm always like, my parents and my grandma might see this, so it better be the Jena that they raised.
Right.
There's a lot of pressure with that. Like my in-laws farm about 100 miles west of us, and there's a lot of like the prominent pillars of the community over there who watch me and know I'm connected with them. And so it's just like, then you realize you're like, okay, that's just the in-laws, let alone my cousins over here and my family over there. And my actual neighbors is like, I better actually be who I say there's a healthy pressure to it too, I think, to just do the right thing.
Well, James's in-laws, he's doing a good job. I'll just put a plug in for that. So we'll go from local to global. What's been the most surprising connection you've made from a long distance away?
Well, to give him a shout out, I don't know where he is, but Farmer Dan from Texas.
It's a different country.
Well, from Minnesota, basically.
Yeah.
That's as far as I've reached and connect with. But gosh, I talk to him we talk on the phone probably every other day. I mean,
Besties.
similar phase of life. They've got a little kid, fairly newlywed in the grand scheme of things, like similar worldview. We don't have a kid quite yet, but in May we will. And so it's just, I don't know, we compare notes on a lot of how do you balance this with that, and what are your social media strategy things here, and gosh, he's one of my better friends.
Yeah.
So internationally, I don't know, I visit with some Brazilians once in a while, but we don't talk on the phone. I don't speak Spanish.
It's not international, but she's in Alaska, and she shares, it's called Kodiak Goat Dairy, and she shares their dairy in Kodiak, Alaska. And she actually grew up in the very small town in Nebraska that I am from, like town of 1,100 people. And I don't know if she babysat me and my brothers, but maybe her sister did. And so that was kind of a fun connection. Like, I know who you are, you know who I am, and we can kind of see our lives now. Internationally, before I started our beef business, I went to a retreat in Northern California to learn about shipping perishables and telling your story and stuff. And I was like 26, I'd never rented a car before. And so there was an older woman that was from Canada, and she was like, oh, I'll pick you up at the airport. She sent me a selfie. She's like, it's my first selfie, this is what I look like. And so we had 2 hours in the car together to get to this ranch. And she was a labor nurse for 30 years, and I was a labor nurse at the time before I stepped away from my off-farm career. And so that was kind of just a really small world, fun connection, like through social media. We had all the things to talk about with labor and delivery.
Yeah, I mean, besides meeting Jena and some of my other close farm wife friends online, I connect with people. There's people in the DMs and comments from a ton of different countries, and you hear their perspective, and it's really interesting to read about just the differences in the scale. Like Europe is much smaller scaled, it seems like, and those connections happen, and I would say definitely our neighbors to the north is where I've met a lot of like actually close people and met them in real life, like the G mom.
Yes.
Yes, so it's been super fun to meet people you never would have otherwise.
Well, we're happy you're here at the BSF booth. We appreciate that you appreciate our products and solutions. What sort of strategy do you have for folks who are content creators and interacting with companies and manufacturers? What sort of advice would you give?
Did you have the line, if you treat it like a business, you'll have business results. If you treat it
Right.
like a hobby, you'll have hobby results. I'm paraphrasing a little.
Yes, and I think too, especially with ag, like ag is newer to the content creator game, and like hiring people like us to help promote their product. So for me and Mary Pat with our podcast and stuff, it's been a lot of reaching out to companies like, hey, this is what we do. Do you see a fit for this in your social plan or your marketing plan or of any kind? We're already using your product. It works well for us. We'd love to link arms. And I've had a lot of partnerships come out of that. More so out of like me treating like a business and doing that and pitching brands, then some brands will approach you eventually. Yeah. But if I want it to pay me like a business and diversify our farm income, I definitely am doing some of the bootstrap work to reach out and say like, how can we come together and benefit the consumer as a team?
Yeah, I would echo Jenna and just say like bring ideas too. Like if you've got an idea for a brand that you really enjoy or like something that has impacted your farm, tell them what your idea is. What do you think will help them reach their goals? And obviously ask them what their goals are. Maybe you can find a connection point in that, but make it about the brand as well and what they can benefit from.
I would say when I first started working with brands, I was really sheepish about it because you hear the word influencer and you're like, oh boy, what are they like? Are they full of themselves?
Are they just a corporate shill?
Yeah. And it's just kind of like, that's not what I thought this would turn into. Like just a little bit of the stereotype, but like once you get into a little bit and start figuring stuff out, and figure, all right, like you can be you and work with some of these brands, and it can be a really good thing to do together once you get used to it.
And a majority of the people that I've worked
I think we lost your sound.
I can just talk loud if I need to. A lot of the companies that I've worked with, when you start to get to know the people working in corporate ag, even in an executive position, a lot of them are just down-home people from farms too. So I feel like ag is special in this space because, we're working with corporate companies, but a lot of them have roots in agriculture. They understand what we're doing, and they can really relate to our stories.
And then just, I think from a practical standpoint, like if you're looking at a marketing budget as a business or whatnot, like, I mean, there's incredible reach via social media, and folks like seeing things used in practice or reality rather than just a brand showcasing it. Like, and it wasn't a sponsored deal, but there's a set and seed, a planter deal where you can check the depth in all your planter units, and it was just a cool tool. And I made a video about it on TikTok, and it did really well. And the guy who owns the company, it gave him enough traction on selling the things where he reached out, he sent me a hoodie and said thank you. It's like, and here he's had a social channel showcasing this product, but just showing one random person using it online, like the value is enough where he went and found me. And it doesn't always work out that way, but it's a real thing. I think it's here to stay.
So you mentioned TikTok a little bit. We've talked Instagram. How do you pick your platform? How do you sift through all of the different options out there and sort of find that medium that works for you?
I think you start with one.
Yep.
And master that, because if you overwhelm yourself with posting to 5 different platforms, that's going to slow you down. And then you can add in more. And I think since Instagram launched Reels, which has been a long time now, like the short form content has been where I thrive. So I'm trying to lean into that and use it across the platforms to grow the multiple platforms. But definitely didn't start out that way. And I think it was just wherever I started with the platform that I enjoyed spending the most time on, Instagram. And then I branched out from that.
I'm the same way. I started with Instagram, and then I tried YouTube for a while. I didn't love having to record things vertically and horizontally, and then editing YouTube videos is just a beast of its own. So I think it's okay to pivot and I didn't like that. Mary Pat's the queen of repurposing content, so she can repurpose it from Instagram, put it on TikTok. Her TikTok audience will randomly blow up about something that Instagram never would have blown up about. So there's a lot of value in doing it. I think you too just have to do one at a time, otherwise you'll get burned out.
And I think the long form content of YouTube and then the filming style versus short form style and content, and the viewers have a very different expectation of attention span, and so there's folks who do both well. I am not one of them either. But I guess my advice would be pick one of the two paths and pick the one you enjoy, because what you enjoy is what's going to do better because you're going to put more energy into it. And then what fits your life. Like, I mean, it takes editing to do short form content, but not like YouTube.
I think too, like I still have YouTube available on my media kit because sometimes a brand might want me to tell a story like through the growing season, and that's not going to get them hundreds of thousands of views, but then they have that in an evergreen place where if there's a new person working for the company or a new customer they're trying to connect with, it can be like, oh, here's this family farm that used this product, here's how it's worked for them through their season. They have that link to share. So it's not my favorite place. I don't like work on building that audience to be really big, but it's still a tool that I use in my media kit with and kind of like diversifying what I offer with brands.
So maybe we've talked a lot about what you've done, but let's get out the crystal ball and sort of go into the future. Where does content creation and agriculture go in the next 3 to 5 years?
That's $1 million question. We have no idea. Like Mary Pat said, like TikTok disappeared, it came back, but nobody knew it was going to.
Sure.
So I think I've worked hard. Like I don't have all my eggs in that basket. So social media is a huge part of my family's income right now, but I know that like if it disappears, I might have to pivot. For Mary Pat and I, where we have products we can sell to consumers, there's a lot of value in building an email list because then you own that contact information of your people. And if social media disappears, we can still get in contact with them. So I think it's a tool and I'm going to use it as well as I can for as long as I can, but what 3 to 5 years holds, I have no idea.
Yeah, I agree. I think the platforms are constantly changing too, and what they're trying to focus on, and what new features they're bringing and whatnot. And I think it's just trying to keep up with that. And they reward you when you try the new features that they're coming out with. So I don't know, but I do think that ag content creation is here to stay, and there are people in our generation that are going to social media to connect with people, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it'll just continue to grow.
Yeah, and I definitely think the platform, but like the social egg content creator thing is here to stay. Something that my wife and I talk about is like, okay, we're having our first kid here this spring. What's life look like? Like my pie of time is only going to shrink and change, and so not that social media is going to disappear, but like what's sustainable long term? 10 years from now, what's video creation going to look like? Because once we have a bunch of kids running around, it'll look different, and I still got to get the farming done because I'm a farmer first, and I love it. I have no intention to stop doing it, but we have that conversation. So we try to use the income we've made on social media and reinvest it in things that have a long-term benefit for our farm, like infrastructure, and I mean, for us, paying down debt because we're young. But so just just to leave your options open, because what happens if your platform disappears? And trying to diversify, too, but...
And I'm sure this is still true. I don't know how to fact check it, but when around the same time Mary Pat and I started sharing online, the experts were always saying like the people that will make the most money on social media haven't started yet. And so it wasn't this I'm late to the game. There's a lot of stories to be told, especially in ag, and I agree that ag content creation isn't going anywhere, and we are such a small percentage of the population. And if you didn't grow up on a farm or a ranch, you've never been around it, there is something that is very interesting about us to the general population just because it is so different.
Yeah, it's not hard to generate content on farming. Every year is different.
So that's the future of content creation. 5 years is an eternity in the internet. Get that. How about the future of ag and farming on your farm? Where are you going to take your operation in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, we are a generational farm, so it makes changes a little bit, not difficult, but different, because we have to, as the young generation on the farm, get over the mindset that we have to do it the same way that the parent generations did. Ag is changing, and I'm ready to be the change for our generation. We cannot keep doing everything exactly the same like our parents did it. Like, we have to be open-minded, willing to make changes, willing to try new things. And so it's ever changing, and when the world will change around you, and whether or not that's inevitable. But whether or not you grow through that change, that is 100% a choice. And so I think we are just getting comfortable with change and being willing to change and innovate in different ways, because it just has to happen.
Yeah, I echo that. And I think, when I think about 5 years from now, my son is 6, he's going to be 11. He's probably going to be driving a tractor by himself. I'm probably going to be out of job. But no, just kidding. I think it's going to continue to innovate, but especially like with little kids and thinking about making room for them to come back and how can we diversify and strengthen our operations so that they can make it through these hard times. I think that's going to be a key focus for us. And yeah, and my husband's really excited about autonomy. I'm not quite on board with that. I don't understand it. I'm like, it's going to drive itself, but he's really excited about that. So.
And I'd say on like an individual level for my wife and I's farm, I mean, we're young and looking to put our chips on the table with things that are going to, the things when you're 50 or 60 and you look back and you go, gosh, I wish I did that before I was 30. Like those are the things we're trying to do. Knowing what they are is usually the challenge and the timing. But as far as the industry, I'm really looking forward to what are we figuring out about some of this soil health type stuff and, cycling P and K and like I haven't played with a lot of biology. We do some manure, but just figuring out some of that end of things. And I don't know. I feel like we're just at the beginning of what a lot of that looks like on the biology, agronomic side of things. And then, I don't know, autonomy is going to be wild. I mean, my big tractor's older than I am, and it's got 1-inch accuracy auto steer. I hope I can have it autonomous someday.
I want to add one thing to this too with like changing what we do on our operation with the older generation. We trial a lot of things. I told you that. It's big for us to like show my father-in-law like here's a change. We're going to do it on a small scale. When we first did Valtima, actually, he didn't even know. I think he knew we were maybe trialing something, but he didn't know where. And he was in the combine and he pulled into the trial. We knew he didn't. And he was like, what is different here? The yield just bumped like 7 to 8 bushels. And Levi's like, that's my Valtima trial. So then he sees in real time like, oh, my son made a change. It's working. This is going to be more profitable for us. So I think like being very strategic, not strategic in a bad way, but as the younger generation, like slowly showing the other generations, like this is how this change can be very positive.
Speaking of change, and this is maybe a question more for Jena and Mary Pat, but I know, Jena, you talked yesterday about the evolving role of the farm wife and how the social media and the online business has kind of changed that view. So how has it changed for you, and sort of how is that, sort of different from where things started?
Sure. I mean, marrying onto our operation, there were 4 wives involved, and all of us kind of split the typical farm wife duties, so making meals, running for parts. I enjoy that, and that's still like one of my favorite things to do is to help on the supportive role, and I know that that is still the most important thing that I do because anyone can be hired. Anyone can be. My 6-year-old can drive a tractor. So, but I wanted to be involved operationally because I grew up on a dairy farm, and that was really in my heart to be part of the operation and what we did day to day. And so, for my family in particular, just sharing with them, I want to be involved and speaking that out loud and getting their concerns and questions, and doing something that a woman hadn't really done on our farm yet, like as in depth as I had been. So yeah, it was breaking through those barriers, and now it's totally normal for me to be out there and learning all the new things.
When I first started helping around on the farm, I was working full-time night shift. We had 1 kid, but we had a really good routine. And in my days off, if you will, I was like, Levi, how can I help you? I knew he was spread thin, and I also knew I was very capable. So he taught me how to power wash and run the disc and move fields. I'm very willing and happy to do those things still. But I said, Levi, this is great, but like me doing those things isn't bringing us in more income. And I feel like I am motivated and have the skills that I can do something to diversify our income. So the change for us has happened from like me being available to then me using my skills in a way produce income to then me stepping away from my off-farm career because we had produced income in different ways, and now I'm like available for my family and farm in a whole new way. So I think it's ever evolving, it's ever changing, and you just have to like stay aligned in what's serving your family at that time, and then just be willing to change with that.
I do have something to add to that because I also quit my job. We're like, if anyone wants to talk about quitting your job, talk to me and Jena because we will encourage you to do that.
If you're trying to keep it, we're not your people.
No. So I think I realized that I wasn't being as fulfilled in my career as I thought I was after I had our first baby. And I was home on the farm I had married into for the first time ever. I spent my first harvest during my maternity leave, and that really opened my eyes to how much I could bring to my little family, how much my husband actually did need me when I was traveling all the time and gone for work. So even though I fully intended to like go back to work after I had our first, within 6 months, I had left my job to be home on the family farm and figure out how I could. That really fulfilled me more than anything else, was being there for my family.
How do you involve family and friends in your online persona, right? Your husband, your kids, your in-laws. What sort of strategy would you recommend for that?
I've taken this bit from a couple of like more the YouTube farmers, but they kind of decide who are going to be characters and who are going to be in the background and who's comfortable and fits with each of those. I'd say my primary characters are my wife and our golden retriever because we're the ones who are around all the time. There's probably more pictures of my dog on there on a weekly basis than myself. And then in the fall, we pool some resources with a neighbor, and it's two young guys my age and their dad, and the one of them's never around and he's always in the background, doesn't like being on camera unless his face isn't in it. So we're like, well, that works. And the other one, he's a hoot. He's probably more entertaining than I am. So you just, all right, we'll take two of the three, and you can be in the videos. So that's how we split it up.
I think I would echo that. It's your cast of characters and who your audience can get to know through your channel. Some of my followers get confused with my brother-in-law being my husband, so that gets a little weird sometimes. But my husband shows up for the most part, and my kids, and it's like mostly our little family unit. And I try not to go too far out of that unless someone is really willing to be part of a project with me. Like my brother-in-law helped us with a project last summer, but for the most part, it's just our little family. And once in a while, the hired guy who's really funny. I didn't realize it till just this last year. I'm like, I need to film you more. You're funny, but it's kind of an evolving thing.
Yeah, I think you just have to be openly communicate and with your family if they want to be a part of it or not. My father-in-law is willing. He taught me how to drive the combine this year, and he was totally willing to be on film for that. It can change too. I used to share our kids all of the time, and I've really cut back on that because they are their own little people, and it's a scary world out there. And as your stuff gets in front of more people, once it's out there, you don't know what someone's going to do with it. So a cast of characters, but it can change too as your family changes.
I think the biggest thing is whoever you choose as cast of characters, make sure they're reoccurring so it's not a one-off. I have some extended family members who I love dearly, but they're super excited to be on my videos. It's like, you guys live on the other side of the continent. You're never going to be back in them. Like, I'll put you in the background, but if I make a video of just you, no one's going to know who you are. And I'll spend the whole video explaining it. And it kind of a hard truth, but the gate cut a little.
So you're your own producer, screenwriter. We're going to see you in the Oscars in a couple of years. Is that what? Oh.
I hope not.
No.
So we're getting closer to the end, but I did want to sort of ask a more cliche question. What do you wish you knew when you were starting out? So what does the content creator of today would like to have told, the one that was starting out?
I wish I knew that they just wanted me and who I am and my family and what I'm passionate about. I think at the beginning I was kind of obsessed with is my account cute when somebody goes to look at it? Is the brand going to take me seriously? Am I enough? Am I too much? And I was very obsessed with making sure when you go to my page, it's very appealing to all of the people. But I think I wish I would have just done what I wanted to do and not obsessed or wasted so much time worrying about what it looked like.
I would say just you don't try to please everyone. You're never going to. It's never going to work for you if that's how you're trying to show up, because it's just a disaster waiting to happen. I do really like to interact in my comments too, but if it gets like the wild, wild west, I'm backing out and letting it happen on its own. So I think making sure that you're not trying to please everyone, and if you're getting into a funk because you're reading through stuff that's just bringing you down online, find a way to stop and move on.
I would say for myself, I was really reserved. I mean, I'm a pretty steady personality, but I didn't show any personality early on because it's just too many people watch this. But people are watching your story because they want to know your story. They want to learn from you, but also they want to know who they're learning from. And just to not be afraid to do that, and just, again, to be kind, but just to own who you are and the things you like and the things you don't like. And Bring your whole self.
Don't compare yourself to every farm and other young family on the internet. Like, comparison will only paralyze you. You will get no sort of forward movement from comparison. So I think in the beginning, I wish I would have leaned more into that. Like, you hear it's somebody's highlight really. Like, everybody you meet is fighting some kind of battle you know nothing about. So I think, like, recognizing, like, she doesn't have a perfect life. She's just not airing her dirty laundry and every bad thing that happens in her life, and really getting away from comparison.
Those are fantastic recommendations. I think we want to give you the chance to plug your channel or anything else. Where can people find you?
Yeah, it's just my name, Jena Ochsner. It's very German, and there's only one N in Jena, so it's hard to find. But pretty much across all platforms, it's just at Jena Ochsner. And then Mary Pat and I have a podcast called Beyond the Crops.
And yeah, mine's just my name too. I have two first names. MaryPat.Sass is my handles pretty much across the playing field. And then my business is called Grounded Journals.
And I am all about farming as my handle, primary accounts being Instagram and TikTok. So.
And if you need beef, it's ofarms.com.
I'll be looking at that for sure. Ours is, of course, BSF Ag Solutions. Check us out. A lot more coming from the Commodity Classic. I wanted to definitely thank our panelists. Thank you all in the audience for spending an hour with us. Hope you got some good coffee, some good insights, and we'll be around afterwards if you want to chat further. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.